Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, which is brought to you by People Management in partnership with Achievers, the cloud-based employee success platform. We will be talking today about how employee recognition can boost motivation during an economic downturn. My name is Robert Jeffrey. I'm Editor-in-Chief of People Management, and I am pleased to introduce you to our two speakers today, Suzanne Gensch, Solutions Consultant, and Alyssa Tantillo, Customer Success Manager EMEA at Achievers. So to everybody listening, we look forward to seeing your questions and comments. Please submit them in the comments section underneath the main slideshow. We will be addressing them during the Q&A at the end of the webinar. And in the meantime, I would like to hand over, without further ado, to Suzanne and Alyssa.
Thank you so much, Rob. So as Rob mentioned, my name is Alyssa Tantillo, and I am a Customer Success Manager at Achievers. So what that really means is I work really closely with our global customers on design, implementation, and really ongoing management of their recognition and engagement programs. So my main focus is on driving attainment of key success metrics and also striving for continuous improvement of their programs. As you might tell, my accent is actually from California, but I currently reside in London with my British husband. So I'm also joined today by my colleague, Suzanne, who is my partner in crime, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Alyssa. As already mentioned, I'm a solution consultant, which means I'm focused on helping our EMEA clients optimize the Achievers platform to ensure achievement of strategic business objectives. I've worked in the field of human resources for over 20 years, so not to age myself, but it's been a long time. Mm-hmm. And until recently, I was a program manager and key Achievers stakeholder focused on wellness and recognition within a customer organization. So I've been a fan of Achievers for a really long time. As such, I have firsthand experience with driving success through recognition. I recently relocated from the US to my native Germany with my young daughter, and I'm excited to bring the benefits of recognition and engagement to the European market. So before we move on to the agenda, I wanted to briefly touch on why we're here. For the majority of 2020, leaders around the globe have been and continue to pivot as their strategic plans are no longer fit for purpose. And it's so important right now that businesses don't lose sight of what we all know is our most valuable key to success, our people. Although there's nothing you can do to influence the macro level conditions of the economy, and we do need to acknowledge that every business is experiencing this crisis differently, depending on their industry, there are things you can do to protect your people and the livelihood of your business as we continue to look forward and plan for 2021 and beyond.
And like Suzanne said, there are absolutely things you can do to ensure your business becomes more resilient to future disruptions, which is why I'm so excited to be a part of today's discussion, as it's really centered around controlling the controllables within HR and spotlighting field-tested solutions that you can apply today to help optimize your organizational culture and employee performance as we brace ourselves for what's next in the post-COVID-19 world. Crazy stuff.
So here's a quick overview of our agenda. We're going to start by recapping on the difference between recognition and reward. We will then go on to share our top tips for successful recognition based on years of best practice experience and science-backed research by the Achievers Workforce Institute. And then we'll wrap it up with some key takeaways and open up the floor for Q&A. In case you ask yourself who or what the Achievers Workforce Institute is, here's a brief overview. The Achievers Workforce Institute is the research arm of our organization that conducts primary research, analyzes how end users are interacting with the Achievers system, and incorporates the latest findings in behavioral science and employee motivation to help inform on the development of the Achievers product. Dr. Natalie Baumgartner is our chief workforce scientist, and she calls herself a culture and engagement nerd. That's a good thing in this case. She ensures that everything that we do at Achievers, from technology to thought leadership, is rooted in science. We're truly very lucky to have her. Now we'd like to find out a little bit more about you, our audience. So let's get things going with the poll question. So for this, you would actually have to scroll down on the landing page for this webinar, and there you will see the poll question, which is, do you have a formal recognition program in place? So yes, we are very curious about your experience with recognition and where you are on the evolution of your engagement strategy. So don't be shy, submit your answers now. We'll give you a minute or two to respond. And while we're doing that, Alyssa, while we're collecting the poll answers, I believe we've asked this question before during our monthly online Tea with Achievers event. What do we typically see when responses come in?
Yeah, so not to try to convince anybody to change their answers right now, but usually what we see is about a 60-40 split between 60 of the people have some type of program, but it really needs to be consolidated, which is what we're going to go into today. But also a lot of them have a program in place. So whether it just needs a bit of improvement or they probably need something new to help them consolidate, that's usually what we see. Obviously with Tea with Achievers, people are showing up with a little bit of a different mindset to a webinar such as this. So that's kind of what we see.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Alyssa. So, looking at the responses that are coming in right now, first, thank you so much for participating. It always helps when the audience is supportive. So looking at the responses we've received so far, it appears that most of our listeners are already familiar with the concept of recognition. And furthermore, already have a program in place, but are looking for some improvement. So that's probably a good reason for you to be here today. So thank you very much. We are about tight at with folks that could do some improvement with their program, or seeing that they need some consolidation of programs. But we also have some people that have nothing in place right now. So definitely welcome to you to the world of recognition and engagement. We really hope that you walk away with a lot of good nuggets of information, and we're certainly available for follow-up as well. So super thrilled that you participated in the survey. And now let's move on into our first item of topic here. Alyssa, let's move on to the difference between reward and recognition. Enlighten us, please.
Absolutely. So the phrase reward and recognition has become really commonplace in today's recognition game, if you will. And we even use that at Achievers at times, but these two concepts are interrelated, but they're actually separate ideas. So if your organization can disconnect one from the other, you can drive results by applying each strategy to their appropriate situation. So there's a huge amount of behavioral science around this topic, but at Achievers, we talk about recognizing the journey and then rewarding the outcome. So it's particularly important right now with these two tools in particular about using them appropriately. So we don't need to look far for economic doom and gloom, with the main debate being how to minimize the negative impact on the economy, or potentially how long and how bad our road to recovery could be from an economic sense. So organizations therefore need to ensure that employees are continuing to be recognized for their efforts without that reward-heavy expectation that some businesses might be finding themselves left with today. So it's inevitable that many businesses are going to have to do more with less in this post-COVID world. So less people due to furlough, less time because people actually have to take all their vacation time now, and the biggest topic, less budget. So in fact, this is highlighted in McKinsey's survey that they conducted just this year, which shows that organizations that can achieve 55% improvement in engagement just by addressing employees' need for recognition through non-financial means. So once again, talking about that recognition versus reward. And it's true, recognition has been proven to be one of the most scalable, effective ways to align employees to key behaviors, improve morale, and is widely considered to be one of the strongest, most reliable drivers of engagement in today's world. And you don't have to just listen to me. Harvard Business Review also agrees. But however, when it comes to measuring the success of recognition efforts, an interesting dichotomy exists that not enough people acknowledge.
So although most organizations have some kind of recognition initiative in place, only 18% claim their program is definitely working. And even more concerning, 82% of employees say that they don't feel adequately recognized. That is a bit scary, I would say. And the hard truth is money spent on a recognition program that isn't strategic is money wasted. And I for sure know that none of us on this call have money to waste. In fact, 66% of non-strategic programs will not drive employee engagement. The very thing you want most from your program. With a program that has limited impact, you cannot build a culture of recognition, and you'll be unlikely to demonstrate a return on your investment. The disconnect can be explained by the fact that although for the most part recognition has net positive effects, not all recognition programs are created equal. Research spanning from consulting houses to academia shows that for recognition to move the needle on engagement and actually impact alignment with company values, it has to have a few particular characteristics. Having deployed hundreds of recognition programs with some of the world's largest and most complex organizations, we have gained a solid understanding of what it takes to implement and maintain a successful recognition program that will drive key business performance metrics. Program adoption and monthly active usage are critical program health measures. Just ticking a box to say you have a recognition program is not enough. People need to be using it, and regularly. At Achievers, in 1 year, our customers have created more than 26 million recognition moments. And with 50% monthly active users, that means 1 out of 2 employees are active on the Achievers platform every single month. Now, many organizations have top-down programs that reward just a few employees quarterly or yearly, and that's really not enough, particularly at the moment when people need more visible digital connections with their organizations due to the dramatic increase in sustained home working. So let's get back to these program characteristics. We call these the 3 golden rules of employee engagement: inclusive, specific, and frequent. Let's take a look at what we mean by each one of these. Alyssa, can you start us off with the first one?
Absolutely. So the first one is inclusive. So starting with the fact that recognition must be inclusive. What this really means is that companies should find a way to democratize recognition, allowing it to be free-flowing from bottom to top, side to side, all directions, and not just from the top down. Exclusively top-down people initiatives didn't really work pre-COVID workplace, and they're definitely not going to work now. Employees should be able to be encouraged to recognize anyone regardless of their physical location, function, or job level. So enabling inclusive and transparent peer-to-peer recognition gives managers and employees alike direct line of insight into what's working so they can double down on those behaviors. So what gets recognized gets repeated, and this is particularly true when there's increased visibility. So furthermore, leaders need to acknowledge that when employees might be feeling isolated or stressed due to heavier workloads, so this could be due to reductions in staff, furloughing, etc., they need to centralize and amplify those positive moments, allowing everyone to virtually celebrate in those wins, which bolster morale and instill confidence in employees that the business is moving in the right direction, which is, I know, something very, very important to most of the businesses today. And this critical role of recognition and regular recognition plays a huge, huge part in connecting employees during difficult times. And that really hasn't been lost on our customers during COVID. So since the pandemic, we've seen a 48% increase in recognition sent across our customer base, which represents over 300 organizations that collectively employ over 2.4 million people around the globe, which is absolutely amazing. And the way that they can really do this is through the social and non-monetary concept that allows individual contributors who might have been previously excluded from regular recognition due to limitations in reward budgets. And now they're allowed to recognize the exemplary behavior that they're seeing directly from their peers every single day. So it's no longer just the manager's game to recognize their direct reports. It's really getting everyone involved in that recognition game.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. So the second rule is about being specific. So let's take a closer look at that. The more specific a recognition is about why an exhibited behavior deserves to be recognized, the stronger the emotional impact will be on the receiver and their performance. Saying, "Thanks for being awesome," isn't meaningful or convincing, and it doesn't lead to improved employee performance. It is important to be really explicit about how the behavior ties into the organization's values and strategic goals. You want to demonstrate to the business what great behavior looks like. Speaking out of my own personal experience, I can say that recognition has played an instrumental role in my assimilation into the Achievers organization. Not only was it an amazing feeling knowing that I, being a newbie, was noticed for my actions that were clearly laid out in the recognition text, but the recognitions I've received also reconfirmed that my approach mirrored Achievers' values. Receiving these meaningful recognitions gave me a feeling of belonging and being valued early on as a contributor to Achievers' success, which was especially important to me since I'm the only employee working in Germany and don't have an opportunity to bump into my colleagues at the office anytime soon. And recently, our CEO boosted a recognition that I received from a colleague. Not only did this amplify the recognition, but it endorsed the nominator's rationale, and that feels good all around, not just on the receiving and also on the giving end. For clarification, Boost is a feature we developed based on feedback from our customers. We built Boost to provide managers and leaders a low barrier to participate in fostering a culture of recognition and to communicate to their teams what behavior they want to see exemplified. It works by simply adding a small amount of points and a comment to an existing recognition. Over 90% of our customers have it turned on because it empowers leaders from the C-suite all the way down to the frontline managers to reinforce key behaviors and celebrate the daily wins happening across the business, regardless of location or department. In times of high stress, when employees might be wondering whether their job even matters, it's even more critical to guide them to see that connection of how their daily contributions impact the organization's mission and purpose. Alyssa, now back to you for our third rule.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final pillar of our 3 golden rules has to do with frequency of recognition. And if there's one thing you take away from today, please let it be this. Recognition simply doesn't work unless it's frequent. Recognition doesn't help to reinforce behaviors or improve engagement unless it's received regularly. So, in fact, absolutely nothing in life works unless it's regular. So you would never expect after working out 5 times in a whole year to have the same body as the body coach or any other of those fitness instructors that you've been watching during COVID. And recognition is no different. So recognition really is a short-term need that needs to be satisfied on an ongoing basis. Yes, 2 things clearly take place in the brain when someone receives recognition. First, you might guess, there's a little hit of dopamine, which means and results in an emotional high and contributes to creative problem solving and a sense of belonging. But the second is the fact that that dopamine hit that we just described, well, it's basically gone just as quickly as it came. So after analyzing 19 years worth of data across hundreds of companies, Achievers Workforce Institute has found that organizations that average at least 1 unique recognition received per employee per month experience the strongest measurable impacts on business outcomes. So these outcomes could take the form of customer service scores or NPS scores, as well as voluntary retention. Recognitions per employee should not be measured annually, but actually monthly.
Now, if 1 recognition per employee per month sounds a lot or expensive, you should know that it's impossible to reach optimal recognition levels without decoupling rewards from recognition, though they're seen in the eyes of employees as being separate. Studies from MIT to the London School of Economics support the idea that motivating employees through pushing incentives and rewards has a weak exchange rate with today's knowledge worker, and tends to create a culture of entitlement where employees feel expected of rewards. Yes, if the end goal is to align employees to core values in a meaningful way and have a sustaining impact on engagement and performance, recognition strategy must be centered around frequent non-monetary peer recognition.
So even without looking at the neuroscience and all the studies that show how powerful social recognition is on performance, it's common sense that if Suzanne recognizes me in a way that's authentic and meaningful, like she already has, and my peers see it, I'm going to be energized and motivated to repeat that same behavior again. And then just imagine if my CEO were to come and boost that recognition. It's like Suzanne said, you kind of lose your mind. You're so excited and engaged and really just want to go out and do that all over again to try and get that dopamine hit and really just continue that snowball effect, positive snowball effect of recognition. And this is really why our Workforce Institute recommends over 50% of all recognitions flowing through a particular organization should be free of reward. So let's look at a real life example that we have here. So in this particular correlation, we've mapped non-monetary recognitions to engagement scores and found that people who average receiving just one non-monetary recognition per month was 43% more engaged than those who didn't. So I know we mentioned before that if you feel overwhelmed by the stat of one recognition per month per employee, you're not alone. And here at Achievers, we've created a platform that not only hosts and fosters a culture of regular recognition, but also can incentivize members to come into the platform a bit more organically for more than one reason.
So the Achievers Experience platform is actually designed to enable organizations through a consolidated solution that acts as an engagement measure within your company. We help consolidate your peer-to-peer recognition, wellness, spot awards, service awards, referrals, cost saving and innovation initiatives, and more. This helps maximize your spend, increase employee participation, and leverage program analytics because all initiatives are being driven by the same platform. Frontline employees only need to go to one place. Managers get visibility that they need on their employees' contributions and performance, and the company has access to reporting and ROI insights. In addition, we provide a simple and compelling user experience, no complexities. When we partner with you for the implementation of the platform as a recognition solution, we take a crawl, walk, run approach. Our focus is on adoption, with the goal of 80% activation within the first 30 days. Following best practice, we then support you in leveraging your program for other existing or even new initiatives, creating a culture hub, a one-stop shop for all culture initiatives and programs.
Thank you for that. So in summary, when we think about how to create an engaged, connected workforce in an economic downturn, remember that not all recognition programs are created equal. So to achieve a culture of recognition and truly embed your values into the flow of work of employees, recognition must be inclusive, specific, and frequent. So to optimize your program, adopt a strategy that has less reward-centric and leverage the power of your employees utilizing the power of non-monetary recognition. So really opening up the floodgates with the option of non-monetary recognition.
Wonderful. Thank you for the summary, Alyssa. So, and for you, we are very, very happy to have had the time to go over the recognition golden rules with you today, talking a little bit about separating recognition from rewards. And it's really clear to us that many organizations are going to continually be forced to do more with less. There are plenty of practical resources available on the Achievers website. We included 2 of our many free resources that you can use right away on the page for today's webinar. One is the link to our free recognition e-cards and a copy of our ultimate guide to recognition. Find out firsthand what a positive impact recognition has, not just on the receiving end, but also for the one who's sending it. Take 2 minutes to make somebody's day today and use our free recognition e-cards. You'll be amazed about the impact that this has. And don't forget to download a free copy of the Ultimate Guide to Recognition. Years of best practice piled into one comprehensive ebook. So now let us move over to our Q&A session for today. Rob, did we get any questions?
Thank you both very much. Really interesting. And yes, we have got some questions which we move on to. I think the whole message around non-monetary reward obviously will resonate particularly with businesses at the moment. So I'm sure people will want to delve into that a bit further. Do keep posting your questions and we'll keep going through them. But to kick us off, maybe we can look at a question around having a few different departmental recognition programs which could be consolidated into one program. So any ideas on how to best approach unifying them?
Yeah, that's actually great. I'll take that question if you don't mind, Alyssa.
Yeah,
it's really a great idea. And this consolidation will bring you the benefits of reduced back-end administrative work. It'll bring better visibility to all the great programs you have in place, and easier access for your employees who can bookmark one page instead of having different programs to go to that are online or maybe even still offline. In my last role at one of Achiever's clients, we decided to incorporate different recognition and incentive programs within the Achievers portal. So, for example, we integrated our employee referral program into the portal, which reduced a lot of the back-end administrative work. It ensured availability of detailed reporting, and it gave great visibility to the program through public recognition of the recipients. Another great effect was also that the number of referrals we received increased dramatically, which brought us a bigger pool of qualified applicants and shortened the time it took to fill open positions. So all in all, it was just a win-win-win situation. And just to name a few other examples, we also incorporated an innovation program, an emergency relief program that was there to support employees affected by natural disasters, and also a program that awarded fleet drivers for safe driving practices. I would start off with establishing a list of the programs that are currently in place and documenting guidelines and features of these programs so you understand what it is exactly that you're consolidating. The next step would be to decide where and how to best host these different programs. If you decide to partner with Achievers, which would obviously make us very happy, I can assure you that you will be working with an experienced team of experts from our professional services team. They will be your partners in crime for the time the contract is signed and through the first 30 days after launch. They will support communication and change management efforts and ensure that you benefit from all the best practices we've collected while working with our customers over the years. Your biggest advocate for the life of your program will be your client success manager, whose main goal is the success of your program. He or she will work on campaigns with you, provide program health reviews, and simply be your go-to person, anything Achievers and recognition related. So just envision, Alyssa, when you think of this. Our goal is to help you create a culture hub, a one-stop shop for employees to visit and celebrate the great things happening within your organization. So I hope that was a comprehensive enough answer. Rob, back to you.
Thank you very much. Question that's come in here. Is there a negative impact on staff that don't receive recognition they think they deserve? And if so, how do we address this? Who wants to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that. So this is a question that we get quite a lot. And one of the things that we actually have found here at Achievers through the work that the Workforce Institute has done is that the individuals that aren't getting recognized are probably already disengaged and might actually be already looking for a new position or a new job outside of the organization. So one of the ways that we help identify those individuals is actually through the analytics. So we have this team report that will be available. It's called My Team. And managers can actually get insight into their direct reports, and they can see who hasn't been recognized, who is recognizing quite a lot. So they have those insights and they can tap into them. And we really do rely on the managers because we know that that recognition from a direct manager or from a peer is going to mean way more than someone from up top who actually wasn't a part of that specific behavior that you want to recognize or anything along those lines. So I don't think it is much about individuals not getting recognized as it is the manager going through realizing, hey, this is my job as the manager to take advantage of an opportunity to say, hey, I need to recognize my team. I need to go look through and see what they've been recognized for, or maybe reach out to them and reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? maybe don't mention you haven't been recognized in a while, but you can reach out to that individual and tap in and just say, hey, what's going on? Obviously something's a little bit off, or you haven't been that engaged lately. Can we talk about it? So it's really about utilizing the analytics that we have to make sure that people are engaged and are getting recognized. Hopefully that helps with that question.
Thanks very much, Alyssa. Yeah, really. Yeah, absolutely. Another question here, I'll put to you both. So this is from somebody who says, we have a recognition scheme in place currently, which includes a form of thank you e-cards, but uptake on that has always been fairly low. Do you have any advice on how we can increase uptake on the scheme? And I guess this is presumably talking about how you get staff invested in sending e-cards and giving recognition to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know Alyssa will have something to say about this too, because this is her daily bread and butter. I'm going to take my achiever's hat off for a second and put on the hat from our previous employer, where I was actually responsible for driving the recognition program. And I can very much relate to the situation currently, because we went definitely through a learning curve by launching the Achievers platform, and had to understand the dynamics first. And it was really a wonderful experience when we went through basically a culture transformation, and the recognition program became front and center of this transformation. And we connected our company values into actionable behavior. So we took our values off the walls, put them front and center into the recognition program, made them actionable, so that when recognition would come through, it would actually feel like the behavior that the individual has seen in the organization. And I can only say how it was an amazing experience. It was something that was utilized top down, bottom up. That is something that is really important. You can't just put the recognition program out there and tell people to go use it. It has to be something that is lived throughout the entire organization. We embedded our internal awards programs into the platform. So CEO-based awards that were given on a quarterly basis were running exclusively through the recognition platform. So it had to be documented there. Managers received leaderboards that showed them their own recognition activity, but also gave them insight in their own teams, who was recognized by whom, or who is a really top recognizer. These became really business topics in team agendas, even in leadership meetings. Did we talk about what the recognition looked like in the organization, highlighting specific recognitions that came through. So it certainly really brought recognition to life. So I think you probably have a good start on your hands with this program that you're mentioning about being able to send cards. You just have to elevate it a bit more, put it in a spotlight, and make it something that is important. Place some importance on recognition. Alyssa, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, and the only other thing that I will say that we really harp on here at Achievers is getting your leadership involved. So maybe even having, depending on how your system works, if your CEO could send out a thank you e-card to every single one of the individuals through a bulk thank you, just putting some light on it. If you have any webinars that are going on or any town halls or anything like that, just have your senior leadership keep bringing up this concept. And the more that they use it, we say at Achievers, anybody that's recognized by a manager or a people manager is 2.5 times more likely to recognize themselves as an individual contributor. So getting that leadership buy-in, make sure that they're practicing what they preach. I think you'll be surprised about how many more people start to jump on the bandwagon and really realize, oh, this is kind of nice to just get an e-card, someone saying thank you. And it's completely removed from all of, like we said, decoupling rewards and recognition. And it's really just a nice thank you. But yeah, just get the leaders involved. That'll always help.
Thank you very much. Keep the questions coming in. We've got one here that I will put to you, which is, how can we inspire colleagues to move away from depending on financial recognition schemes to non-monetary recognition? And I guess from my perspective, this is a really interesting one, because we know from behavioural science over the decades that actually financial recognition schemes don't measurably deliver. However, we also know that there is a real problem moving away from the tangibility of financial recognition, and that psychologically that has quite a negative effect on people.
Yeah, this is something, once again, that we really dive deep into during our implementation process. There are a lot of transition clients, like you said, who have kind of held on to the older traditions of all of these monetary awards. And one of the things that we like to do at Achievers is really focus on recognition. So moving away from that idea of reward, and we do this through quarterly campaigns is a really great way to do it. But really, the more you throw out this idea of this is a thank you, this is reaching out to somebody, remember how good it felt when you got recognized, and really just focusing on take 5, recognize somebody. And the easier you make recognition, so with it being more frequent, with it being in the moment, people are going to get that dopamine hit, and they're going to be living off those regular recognition highs versus waiting a quarter or waiting 40 years for a pen or a watch. So I think it is definitely a hard transition during those probably the first 12 months. But if you are doing it regularly, or if you are getting your managers involved and having them recognize someone, maybe even just putting 10 minutes on their calendar on Fridays where they just go out and send emails and just say thank you to everyone on their team. I think over time, you'll see that we hack away at that belief that monetary is the only way to recognize, and people will start living in that, oh, recognition is actually really nice. And maybe if I get a quarterly reward, that's even better. But I do feel engaged. I am feeling rewarded for the work that I'm doing because my manager sees it. They're liking, they're boosting, they're commenting other recognitions that I'm getting from my peers. So I do feel seen. And I think it will erode over time that kind of older thought process of monetary recognition is the only way to live. That makes sense.
Thanks very much. We've had a couple of questions around the platform, the suitability of the platform for SMEs. So I'll get you to answer that, but I might just broaden that out a little bit to say, when we are talking about the very smallest employers, or perhaps, employers who might not, for whom a platform solution might not necessarily be appropriate, what can they do?
Yeah, I can jump in here if you'd like, Susan. Again, raise my hand. So my husband is actually a GM for a startup, and he hears me talk about recognition all day long on the phone. And we live in a 1-bed flat, so he hears it quite more over the past 7 months. But what we've actually helped him do to implement recognition into his world, as his budget's not huge, he only has around 10 direct reports that he works with. And we did something as simple as setting up a recognition channel on Slack. And he goes out every single day. Every day he puts 5 minutes on his calendar, looks through all the meetings that he's done, and maybe there's not something super noteworthy that day, but he has made it a goal of his to recognize at least one of his employees once a week. And with the team being that small, it's actually quite easy to be able to scroll through, even if you just come in on Fridays, to that Slack channel and see all the recognitions that are coming through. So with him living that and being the GM and making sure that he has time on his calendar to use that Slack channel, he's actually seen a great amount of excitement about it. People are super pumped. They're like, this is the best thing ever, because that's small, especially working in a startup, they know that the monetary value is not as available. So this just little piece of recognition from their GM has been amazing for their engagement over the past 2 months since he started it. So that's just a small idea that you could utilize.
I love that. I don't really have anything to contribute, but I love that idea and the influence, the openness of your husband to introducing this. So you've definitely opened the doors there in a whole new way. So fabulous. Thank you for that.
And
Rob,
the one other thing I'll do is I'll do a small plug, but here at Achievers, you'll actually be given a link, and similar to the other member that mentioned that they have thank you e-cards, we also have free e-cards. So for any of the SME people on the line, feel free to utilize that link, share it internally through one of your communications, and now you can kind of jump off that bandwagon and start utilizing those free e-cards that we have for you available today.
One warning, you'll be addicted. Rob?
Thanks very much. Yeah, the questions are coming in thick and fast, so I will keep them coming. One here that says, is there a danger that too much recognition or doing it for the sake of it will not be seen as genuine and may do more harm than good? Who wants to tackle that one?
You want me to start, and then I know this is all down your alley.
Go for it.
So I've seen literally our recognition program at my previous employer explode when we made it easier to use, when we incorporated our values into actionable items, actionable behaviors. And I do really truly believe that as long as it stays meaningful, there is no way that there can ever be too much recognition. You're mentioning in here, too much recognition, and I don't think too much recognition is a danger. When you're doing it for the sake of it, then I think it's not genuine anymore and not that meaningful. So that is certainly a downside. But I'm now working at Achievers, and obviously we're preaching what we're selling and what we're what we're talking about today. Reading the different recognitions, I have not come across one that didn't sound genuine. Because if it wasn't genuine, then why do it in the first place? It takes a few moments to gather your thoughts and to follow up on somebody's great accomplishment. So you wouldn't do that if it wasn't something that you actually meant. Then you have better things to do. And again, it's about living it. So having it exemplified through your leadership, through everybody top down, bottom up in the organization. And with that, it just becomes part of your DNA. I mean, the thing is to have it part of your culture. Alyssa?
Yeah, and I completely agree. So one of the other ways that we kind of help combat that idea is that every single recognition that you have to put through Achievers needs to be tied to a business value. So we have all the valuables available to you through a drop down. And once again, if you're an SME, maybe just throwing out values and making sure that they're visible so they can see the definition of each value. That's going to help tie and make those recognitions a little bit more valuable to not only the individual writing them, but the individual that is receiving it and the manager who manages, whether it's both those on the team or just the one that's being recognized. But I completely agree with Suzanne that there's no such thing as too much recognition. If you can make sure that you are telling them it needs to be specific, it needs to be regular. I understand that concept of regular can get a little bit muddled and things can be like, well, I haven't written a recognition this week. I just need to write thank you to someone for being awesome. That's just not really how we facilitate it at least through our platform. So I think communicating that recognition should be regular, but don't send it for the sake of it. So I think you'll be surprised that if you open up the floodgates and say, hey, these are our company values. Every time you write a recognition, let's just tie it to one of these values. And I think it'll become even more specific just naturally because they're trying to figure out a way to say thank you, but recognizing it and correlating it with a value. Just adds that extra little oomph, if you will.
Thanks very much. So a question here. In my experience, recognition is often largely aimed at frontline teams delivering operational achievements and targets. How do you engage and include the less visible teams like project teams who also drive the business forward but are sometimes forgotten about? And I might add there, for example, facilities departments, HR departments very often are absolutely crucial to the business operations but can easily get forgotten about.
So still wearing the other hat. If you have a recognition program that is public and that is available to everybody, where recognitions are visible on a news feed, then it is really easy to have everybody included in it. Again, at my previous organization, we were a very, very much project-driven organization. We had global projects going on, so people typically even didn't see each other. Then a lot of times managers weren't very, very involved in the day-to-day of their employees because employees were working on projects that were driven by project managers rather than their actual manager. So in this case, a recognition program is really your best solution to draw out all the great things that these project teams are producing, because it becomes visible, because everybody who is on the project can recognize their peers for the things that have been going on behind closed doors, especially also in an HR department. There are great things that are being accomplished, and all the things that are being brought to the employees. So one HR person recognizing the other HR person all of a sudden makes it visible to the entire organization. Certainly you'll be a bit more sensitive about the wording used because there are some things that you don't want to blast out. Maybe it's still a surprise to the employees. But a news feed that allows everybody to take part in the celebration will absolutely shine a light on your finance people, your HR people, your procurement people. So everybody who previously only received recognition if they had a manager who would come by their desk and give them a pat on the back once in a while. Now everything is up in the open and everybody can celebrate and probably learn a lot about these individuals and their contributions. I know I've learned a lot about reading things on the newsfeed that I really wasn't aware of, that put me in awe of all the things that they were managing. So putting it front and center really helps with getting everybody recognized equally.
Yeah, and I'll jump in there too as well. The biggest thing is democratizing. So now, instead of just expecting managers to be recognizing, although it is a lot more helpful when you have a tool like Achievers where you can see my team, you can see who hasn't been recognized, but you can also see what's happening within your team because your peers are recognizing each other. But also probably my top number one person that I recognize is my buddy in finance, who just helps me get all my invoices done. So he might not be on my team, but now through this program and being a peer, I can now recognize him outside of my bubble. And then his manager gets a notification that says he's been recognized by me. My manager sees that I'm now recognizing someone from finance. And now Rory becomes the number one person that all CSMs in EMEA are now contacting for anything. But the idea that you can give now access to these HR people and say, hey, you can recognize each other for all the amazing things that you're doing. And then, like Suzanne said, throw that up, make it visible, put a spotlight on it. And you'll be surprised by how many people are liking, commenting, and really getting that recognition that they might have not gotten ever before from somebody like myself who's on a CSM team in a completely different country. So visibility is going to be a really big, big thing. And we can definitely help discuss and talk about how we can help you utilize your program that you have today to really highlight that.
Thanks very much. We are going to be wrapping up quite soon. If there are any final questions, then please do get them across now using the link. There are a couple of questions around some of the evidence base for this, so I'm going to kind of summarize those and get you to maybe respond to that. So somebody here saying, talking about the correlation between employees who receive recognition and have high engagement levels, but could it be that the causal relationship there is the other way around, i.e., people who have higher levels of engagement are more likely to perform in a way that attracts recognition? And then there's also just a request to maybe share the McKinsey report, which you referenced there, which talks about the improvement in engagement through recognition. So I guess summarizing that, what more can you say about the evidence base for some of this?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. People that are engaged are probably going a bit further beyond their normal job requirements and doing a bit more, which would obviously probably promote more recognition. But the other idea and the flip side of this is that our goal at Achievers is not just making sure that everyone's recognized, but we also want to focus on your top level business goals. So we want to make sure that the people in the call center are feeling recognized, therefore they're feeling engaged. Therefore, they're nicer to your customers. Therefore, your customers keep coming back for 20 years at a time. But the other flip side of that as well is we do put a lot of power and empower managers. Like I said, use that My Teams report, find out who's not being engaged, and then go out of their way as a manager to say, hey, what can I help you do? Are you feeling overwhelmed? What's going on in your world? And ideally with the insights of, hey, this person's not really getting recognized. What can I do about it? What's going on in their world? And then therefore they can hopefully save that person from voluntarily turning over. And then you can get that person re-engaged back into the program, back into your business, and back into a level of engagement that would then promote being recognized again. So completely understand that that correlation is the easy one to see, but at Achievers, we're actually trying to flip it over and help at the bottom line and help you save those individuals that might not have been visible or seen before.
Thank you very much. Right, we're nearly out of time there, so I will just hand it back to you both to say any kind of final thoughts, final pieces of advice that you want to leave the audience with before we go.
Oh, no pressure.
No, I would just say, you know, wherever you are in your journey, it is already applaudable that you are on this journey. Don't be overwhelmed by thinking, okay, we only have, you know, this tiny little aspect on recognition. That is already great. That is a start, and it can always be built out. And like we mentioned earlier, we have a lot of free resources available. I mean, I started recently with Achievers, and I'm still reading every day things about engagement, and it's a fascinating topic, and it's a basic human need that we're trying to satisfy that happens to help the business be driven forward. So don't hesitate, just start reading, continue your research, and if there's anything that we can be of help, then reach out to us. So thank you again for attending today. Alyssa, do you have anything else?
Yeah, just go download those e-cards and start sending them out and see if you get a reply. Maybe you'll get an e-card back. Not that that's why you're sending it in the first place, but I think you'll be surprised what these small nuggets and maybe this 5 minutes out of your day could do for someone else. So that would be my tidbit from today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Suzanne and Alyssa, for taking part in the webinar today. It's been a really interesting and insightful discussion. So just remains for me to let you know that the webinar will be available on demand. So please feel free to share it with colleagues and watch it again. And thank you all for taking part today. Thank you for your insightful questions, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Rob, for moderating. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day.